What's going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm just an American guy on a journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Today, we're going to be reacting to 10 things the UK does better than the US. You know, since I started this journey, I've learned a lot of interesting facts about the UK, and I definitely believe there are quite a few things the UK does much better than the US. If you were to ask me to name the number one thing that I think the UK does better than the US, I would say it's the fact that they protect the citizens in the UK from the companies putting absolute garbage in the foods. In the US, the government allows corporations to use the cheapest nonsense in all our foods. And it's disgusting. If you have kids or grandkids in this country, you need to make sure you're double checking labels just to make sure you're not putting a bunch of garbage into your children or grandchildren. And it's disgusting that we have to constantly be on the lookout for that. At least if you care about your health and care about that type of thing. You know, I haven't looked at all, of course, lots of labels in the UK versus the US when it comes to shelf-stable foods. But the ones I have seen is night and day. You know, it's just disgusting how in the US we have to deal with this. And then simply because there's better regulations protecting the citizens from this garbage in their foods, you're not as likely to have to be on the lookout for all the constant garbage in these foods. It'd be interesting to check out many different labels like fast food ingredient labels and things like that to see the true amount of garbage in US food versus UK food. I bet it would be astounding. But anyways, guys, to me, that is probably the number one thing because it's very important to me, especially for my daughter, to not consume that garbage constantly. And, you know, all those food dyes and stuff they put in US foods, they are horrible, especially for kids. They produce hyperactivity in kids. And so to me, that is very important. And one of the things that I would be very grateful for if I was a UK citizen, that I don't have to constantly be on the lookout for that garbage in our food. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and check out 10 other things the UK does better than the US.
It's impossible to say which country is the best in the world. However, a case can be made for some countries just being better than others, at least in specific fields.
Absolutely.
These are 10 things the United Kingdom just does better than the United States. Many Americans often mock British people for still having a queen. They often say, "Get with the times, you're not free if you have a monarch. Your tax money is just being wasted." Well, the truth is that US taxpayers have to pay more for their leaders. In 2014,
I just want to say that's a pet peeve of mine. No one in the US has a right to talk about any other country wasting tons of money, because the US is the number one country when it comes to wasting money. For example, I 100% support the military. I believe in having a strong military for protection of your country and to potentially help out other allies when they are seriously in need. But as a whole, the US, we have, 800 bases, more than 800 bases across the world. And we spend more on those bases that are outside of the US, just on those bases, than all the other countries spend on their entire military budget. And that's just one example. You know, if you look at how much we spend on our presidents here in the US, I guarantee you we're probably spending upwards of $1 billion a year on a president. It's ridiculous. It's absolute ridiculous that how much money is wasted in America. We've allowed our politicians to, well, I don't want to say we, because I definitely didn't do it. I didn't vote for all these people that constantly just spin us into oblivion on nonsense, on complete nonsense and garbage. I mean, I'm sorry to ramble so much, but that is a pet peeve of mine. As an American, I will never call out another country for wasting money, because this country that I live in wastes more money than every other country in the world, probably combined, to be honest. I mean, and what do we get for it as American citizens? We don't get anything for it. You know, at least if we were going to spend a bunch of money, at least we could get some benefits and some value from it. But no, it just gets waste on lobbyists and just complete nonsense. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not going to ramble anymore. about that. I just that's a pet peeve of mine. I'm just not a fan of being a hypocrite and calling out other countries for what your own country's already doing at a really, really high rate.
The British royal family cost UK taxpayers just £35.7 million, while President Obama and his family cost U.S. taxpayers $1.4 billion in expenses that same year.
Every president.
So when it comes to cost-effective leadership, the Queen of England, ironically, is less expensive than the President of the United States. The studies are in, and the verdict is clear. Roundabouts are not only more efficient than U.S.-style traffic intersections, they're also safer.
Okay, hold on. I got to be honest. This looks like a American roundabout because let me see. They're coming. Wouldn't that be on the right? And hold on. Wait, maybe you drive on the left. So I think you guys would be going this way, wouldn't you? If this was in the UK, I don't know. But either way, maybe this is a roundabout that's in the US, or maybe not. I can't tell. But they look like what I know as U.S. cars. I don't really, from what I picture in the UK, most cars, look different from the cars I see here. But either way, I don't see many of these roundabouts in the U.S. I don't think I've seen a single one since I moved where I currently live. And in my home state, I think in my entire life, I've probably only seen 4 or 5 of these my entire life. So this is definitely something that it probably is much more common in the UK.
Mythbusters even tested this theory, and they clearly demonstrated that roundabouts allow for 20% more cars to pass
Makes
through
sense.
in any period of time.
You don't have to
than
stop.
What is possible
You can just
in
kind
an
of
intersection.
go slow.
Another advantage is that in a roundabout, drivers don't have to bring their vehicles to a complete stop. This has been shown to be safer for both drivers and pedestrians. So all in all, in this area, the UK has the US beat when it comes to traffic control. The average intelligence of each country in the world is something that has been rigorously studied over the past few decades. Well, the results are in, and quite embarrassingly, people in the UK are smarter than people in the United States. The average IQ of the United Kingdom stands at 100, while the United States fell short with an average IQ score of...
So what's that? Tied for 9th, it looks like. So, yeah, definitely lower than I would like to see, obviously. I don't know if that's really shocking to me. It really isn't surprising to me. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just not going to get into it. But, yeah.
Of 98.
I don't really know what the answers are for that,
but those 2 crucial points are enough to make the United States fall below the mean European IQ, which is 100. Many people argue about the cause of this, whether it be better schooling or higher standards of living, but the facts don't lie. When it comes to IQ, the UK is superior to the US. Now that you know the differences in average IQ between the US and the United Kingdom, it probably doesn't come as a surprise when you learn that the UK actually contributes more to science than the United States, at least on a per capita basis.
I would say I probably didn't know that before I started this journey, but some of the facts I've learned on this and kind of here and there learning about some of the different inventions and things that have come out of the UK, definitely I believe that now is the case.
Which is the metric that divides the number of scientific papers published by a bunch of scientific and divides that number by the country's population. This results in a number that gives you a good idea of how scientifically productive a country is on average. Well, in this category, the United Kingdom has the United States outclassed. The UK publishes 1.424 scientific papers for every 1,000 citizens, while the United States only produces 0.988 scientific papers per every 1,000 citizens. This gap in contributions in the world scientific community is a point of pride for people living in the United Kingdom, and this is certainly an area where the United States should try to catch up.
Sadly, I don't think the U.S. is going to catch up. Personally, living here and speaking with people, and I'm not even going to get in, I'm really not going to go into depth with all this, but I can just say that Yeah, I think that's going to get worse as the years go by. I feel like, I mean, to be honest, I just feel like, unfortunately, I love America. I'm an American citizen. I'm proud of this country. I think America's done a lot of things to be proud of, but man, there's a lot to not be proud of, and I think that's okay. And I think that's what I wish more American citizens would understand and would accept. Because if to improve things, you got to accept the negative things. You got to accept that they exist, and you got to accept that things need to change before things can change. And sadly, I think just people of all walks of life in America are just brainwashed by their side of the political spectrum, and brainwashed by their locked in and deeply held beliefs so much to the point that they can't acknowledge certain things need to change. And yeah, but anyway, sorry.
The United Kingdom possesses the most productive offshore wind farm in the entire world.
Offshore
this
wind farm?
world-class installation is the Greater Gabbard Wind Farm, which produces over 1.75 terawatt hours of clean and renewable energy every year. The United States, and indeed the rest of the world, has nothing that can compete with this installation. In fact, the United States doesn't even have a position in the top 25 most productive offshore wind farms, while the United Kingdom holds the top first, second,
London,
and
hooray.
third spots, with Denmark being its
Greater
closest
Gabbard.
competitor. The UK's superiority doesn't just end there, however. The United Kingdom is the largest exporter of offshore-generated wind power, which means that not only is the UK producing the most offshore wind energy, it's also creating enough to supply other countries.
That's interesting. So obviously, I know that the entirety of the UK's energy doesn't come from wind. I'm guessing it's probably a fairly small portion. So if it's not a full, like, why wouldn't they just go ahead and keep that wind and just, try to produce as much of their own power from that as possible? Why would they go ahead and sell that excess energy to other nations? Writing books, yeah, I know that to be the
Just
case.
as with wind power and scientific papers, the United Kingdom is better when it comes to producing authors and great works of literature. The UK tops the charts of publications per capita, with only China and the United States beating out the country in absolute terms, despite the UK's much smaller populations. Overall, the UK produces 2,875 titles each year for every 1 million inhabitants of the country, while the United States only produces 956 titles for every 1 million inhabitants.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, actually. That really is. I wonder what the reason for that is. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one for a while to really comprehend why I think that is the case. Anyway.
This is an even more impressive feat when you learn that the UK has only 1/5 the population of the United States.
Right.
So when it comes to books, the US is still quite a few chapters behind the UK.
Wow. Five times less population producing, what was that, two
While it
and
is
a
true
half?
that Hollywood is the film capital of
books.
the world, and as a result, produces more films per year, this doesn't compare to one of the UK's greatest film achievements. The most successful film franchise of all time is a British film franchise, the James Bond series.
Oh,
the James Bond series was the first to gross over $1 billion in sales, and is still the highest grossing film franchise. It seems that people still prefer the cool, suave charisma of Agent 007 to the loud action and violence of most American films.
I don't really watch many Hollywood-based films nowadays. They're all garbage. It's absolute garbage. And I enjoy, there's plenty of American films I watch, but they're independent made generally. Smaller budget films, things like that. Because, well, I don't know what to say. Hollywood films have become garbage. They're just, I don't even know how, I'd have to think about why I think they're such garbage now, but yeah, generally speaking, yeah. Yeah. Internet speed.
If you're a fan of watching YouTube videos, this is probably the most important category where the UK is better than the US. Despite having invented the internet, the UK has the US outclassed when it comes to average internet speeds. As of 2015, the average connection speed in the UK was 13 megabits per second, while the US only had an average of 12.6 megabits per second.
It?
So the next time you're in an argument with a British person,
That's it? That's really slow. Both of those are really slow. Now, granted, I know this average. Here I have gig internet, so that's 1,000 megabits per second. Of course, because I do wireless generally, for example, on this computer, I usually average about 600 to 700 megabits per second. So I actually have really, really fast internet. But I know that if you go to certain areas, you definitely don't have that. I know where my wife's mother lives, her internet is, I think it's about 20, and that's fairly slow. So I don't really know where they're counting with that, because honestly, anywhere I've been in America, the internet's always faster than that 12.6 or whatever. I know that exists, and it's probably because in America there's such a large, in some areas there's large amounts of space, where there's dozens, not hundreds of miles between decent sized towns. And so when you add that really large rural population that have very slow internet, it definitely brings down the average. But anywhere with a decent population of, a few thousand people, you're not going to have that 12 megabit internet. You're definitely going to probably be at least up into the 50 or 100 or something like that. So I think sometimes the averages aren't the best way to go when it comes, of an entire country. The same with looking at salaries, because, if you go to LA, Los Angeles, California versus somewhere in the middle of, I don't know, North Dakota, there's going to be many different, you can't average things out there because there's going to be so many differences. And I think the internet is one area you really can't average that out either, because, the US is so much bigger that you're going to have a lot more people that live in rural populations and things than you do in the UK probably, because it's just the size. And because of that, you're definitely going to have an average of a lower internet speed. But as a whole, I think that the internet speeds, generally speaking, from what I've experienced, haven't been nearly that 12 megabytes per second.
on the internet, remember that they probably have you outclassed in internet connection speed. Of the 118 known elements on the periodic table, 24 were discovered by British scientists. This is more than any other country, and further reinforces the case of British superiority in the sciences over the United States. This number includes crucial elements such as hydrogen, sodium, xenon, and platinum. The US, however, wasn't totally outclassed by the UK, as the country did discover 21 elements on the periodic table, and as a result, earns a very respectable second place.
Okay. Now, yeah, that's true. That I know. I don't remember how many it was.
This is probably the greatest sign of the UK's importance and massive impact on the shape and history of the globe. As a legacy of the once great British Empire, countless flags around the globe still bear the Union Jack. From Australia to New Zealand and even Fiji, over 20 major flags around the world contain the Union Jack in one form or another.
Wow.
Perhaps the most interesting and most humorous is that the number includes the U.S. state of Hawaii.
That's true, I remember that.
Proudly displays the Union Jack. The very first flag of the young United States, the Grand Union flag, even contained the Union Jack as well. While countries such as Liberia and Malaysia have similar flags to the U.S. flag, these are poor facsimiles at best, and are vastly outnumbered by countries, states, and territories that still fly the Union Jack with pride. For more top lists just like this.
Well, that makes sense because, I mean, the British Empire was absolutely massive. And the amount of Commonwealth countries at this point, I don't even remember how many it was. How many Commonwealth countries are there? I learned that, but I've learned so many interesting facts on this journey that there's literally no way I could sit there and remember everything. And that's the beautiful thing about kind of these types of videos, is because I get reminded of things I learned previously on this journey. And over time, that's going to continue to reinforce those new ideas, those new things that I know. And I'm going to understand things deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the point with this journey. That I want to understand the UK and Ireland on just as deep a level as I do the US, but I hope even deeper, honestly, because, I just want to grow, and these are the places where my bloodline goes back to. So I want to know everything there is to know about it. But it's also, at this point, it's gone beyond my original intention of just learning about these countries because they're where my ancestors are from. But I find this part of the world just really interesting. And it's just a really amazing, this journey that I've been on. It's just really amazing to learn these different things about this part of the world. But most of these really don't really surprise me, I guess. Some of them downright anger me, not because I'm mad at the UK for being better in these ways than the US, but I'm mad because, for example, US citizens being hypocritical, for example, in the one talking about us for other people spending more on the monarch or whatever. It's like, really? Don't even go there with me, man. We waste so much money in this country. And when I say we, I obviously don't mean individual citizens, because like me, I don't usually vote for any of these. Now, I'm not going to go there with what I think about most of these politicians. Both sides of the aisle. I do not like our mainstream parties. I really 100% support third parties coming up and taking over, because we're at a place to where our two parties have been completely balled out by lobbyists and corporations, to the point that American citizens it's just disgusting. Anyways, guys, I'm not going to make this a negative video. So I don't want to go there, because I get a little aggravated and angry when I think about what's happened to the U.S. And it's because we've allowed, and again, we is not me. I didn't allow it. I've done the best I can to vote third party, usually, to actually bring in some decent people in. But this country's allowed these politicians to completely sell us out, and I think because of that, because we allow the politicians to sell us out, it's the reason why the IQ might be slightly lower, because we aren't, as a country, we've allowed our politicians to vote in ways and do things that have hindered the progress of our nation in positive ways. For example, just one example of that is we've allowed the junk, like I said at the beginning of this video, we allowed the junk in our food supply. And you put this junk in people's food, and guess what? Do you think it might lower intelligence just slightly if people are consuming this garbage on a consistent basis? Maybe. I mean, do you think it might lower our scientific achievements, lower the amount of people who would contribute to works of literature and all these things, because we have this garbage in our food supply? I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I think that food, the quality of the food you consume on a consistent basis, is going to lead to you either being healthy in mind and body, or it's going to lead to you be unhealthy in mind and body. And if you're consuming a bunch of garbage, you're going to be less likely to have a higher IQ, because just one example is seeing the hyperactivity that the food dyes cause in children. I've seen that personally with my own child, and we stopped it. Our biggest problem we have in America, the number one problem, is that we elect these No, we elect these disgusting, borderline criminals on both sides of the aisle and the media. And the media fans the flames of people hating their neighbor because they have a D or they have an R next to their name. And no one ever points to the very people that are selling out everybody that have that D or that R next to their name. But we need a complete wipe of this slate, and there needs to be term limits, and we need to have decent, just everyday people come into office. Serving your nation should be something you do out of the love for the people of your nation. Nothing else. It shouldn't be something you do to get wealthy. You should go to serve your nation, and you should do it for a short set period of time. And you should come out of it with, you should go in it knowing you're not going to become financially wealthy doing it. We should set the pay of our representatives to just slightly above what the average salary is. Maybe a little bit higher than that. Maybe it should be, because, it is a distinguished position. So, maybe you should get paid well while you're in. But I think the problem is that we allow these people to get in. They get bought out by a lot. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna rant anymore. When I see things like this, it kind of gets me thinking about the deeper ramifications of what's going on in our nation, and how me as one person, literally, I sit here and I scream at the top of my lungs what the real problems are. But, I'm not saying on this YouTube, I'm saying just as a whole to family and people, and people still keep on going the same direction. And it's like, it's like Einstein said, what's that quote? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's what we've been doing in America for decades. And no one wants to stop the insanity because they're scared of the other side. They think the other side is an enemy. The other side is, horrible. They don't understand the other side's not their enemy. The other side are just regular people that have been brought up believing whatever they believe because of their parents, of the schools, of the communities they were in, of the media that got turned on from an early age in front of them, on and on and on. That's not a bad person. That doesn't mean someone's evil because they believe different from you. It means that they just have a different life experiences that got them to a place to where they have that belief. And the true enemy is not them. The true enemy are the people that you both have voted in. But anyways, guys, this time I'm serious. I'm done rambling. But thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments and suggestions, and don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys. Peace.